So yesterday I posted a video about Breitling and some of their new releases for 2020. And I was thinking about it in the shower this morning, and I think how they've announced their watches, how they've gone about it, could be the future of watch releases, how all brands end up going. And that's just what I want to chat about. Welcome back to Bark and Jack. I am Adrian, and the previous video was, as I mentioned, about Breitling and some of the watches that they've announced. The way that they managed the information and sharing of the content, it was good. And to be fair, let's go back a bit. So Baselworld. Baselworld is falling apart now. We've preempted this for a while, and it's now finally happened. Patek, Rolex, Tudor, Chanel, Chopard. Who else has recently pulled out? Someone else pulled out. LVMH. LVMH have recently pulled out of Baselworld after Rolex and Patek. So that includes Tag Heuer and Hublot, which, if you've been to Baselworld, they are the two biggest things that you see as you go in. You've got a huge Tag Heuer stand building on your right, and then quite a hefty Hublot building opposite Rolex and Patek, kind of at this crossroads. And so the arse is falling out of Baselworld. Now I speak quite positively about Baselworld because it's a fun event to go to. It's an interesting thing to go to. There's a really nice buzz about it. But when you actually get to interact with the brand, it's not all that great. For example, when I went to see Tag Heuer, I had an appointment with Tag Heuer. It's about a 15-minute appointment. And you get minutes with a watch, if that. And then as you're holding a watch, as you're trying to experience it and trying to interact with it as much as possible, you've got the PR guys talking to you about it.
It's basically our first step in.
Trying to take in all that information, trying to take in the information of the watch itself. And then a moment later,
sorry to interrupt, we've got our 4:30 here.
And so that's kind of how it all works. So it is a bit of a shit show when it comes to interacting like that. It's all a bit awkward and it's very rushed, and so you don't really get a good enough time to interact with the watch. That compared to what Breitling did when it came to launching these watches that they did the other day. Not only did they push out the normal press release that you get, the PDF of pretty pictures and all the stats and a bit of a background about the watch, and then post photographs of the watches, they also shared this 4K content that I was able to use for the video. Along with that, they did a webcast with the CEO, Kern. He presented the watches, talked about the backstory, and he had the watches with him. Now, that whole interaction, I would say going to Baselworld and seeing the watches in person is probably only 20-30% better than what they delivered. So them producing that stuff, doing a little presentation with the CEO and then sharing that stuff out, the few minutes that you would have had with the watch and to be able to take your own personal content of the watch, I'd say going to Baselworld and seeing the watches firsthand, you're probably only gaining 20-30% better content, better experience from touching the watch for a few minutes. It is lazy using someone else's content. It feels cheap, and you don't get to put your own creative flair on the content. And when I went out to the Oris event in Shanghai, there were people using a photographer who was with Oris there. They were using him for capturing the content. And I thought, you're not capturing content, you're sharing Oris's content. You're not doing your job properly. I thought there's a bit of and these are like large national publications. These are big people, and they're just taking photographs, press photographs from someone else. So I thought that's a bit crappy. The outcome of my content was far worse than what the results of this professional photographer would have been. But then I feel it's far more authentic when it's my own content. So going back to the watch releases. So maybe what Breitling did with launching more information, more content, more visual content around their product launches, accompanied with this presentation by the CEO. And it was a good present, regardless of my thoughts towards Breitling, regardless about our thoughts towards what the CEO is doing with the company and the brand itself. The package as a whole unit, I think was actually really quite decent. During the last Q&A, which was either last week or the week before, someone asked a question of, is the watch industry going to change because of this virus? And this could be one of the things that changes. Companies having to be creative to get around the situation of having to launch their watches. These guys still need to sell watches and make money. So maybe this is what they do, is that they're creative around the launches and the cost difference between what Breitling's done and going to Baselworld for Breitling. You can't compare the two. It's infinitely cheaper for what Breitling have done. And it'll be interesting to see whether they will sell as what they'd expected had they done their own launch. For example, it would be interesting to see the sales of Breitling after the digital release that they've done this year versus the sales for Breitling after Baselworld. It'd be interesting to see how that marries up, and I guess that would be the motivation for brands to go more down this digital route. Be interested to see what you guys say in the comments down there. Anyway guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Help me out by hitting that thumbs up button and the subscribe button down the bottom there and a little bell icon so you get notifications when I drop a new video. If you're interested in watch straps, watch accessories, then jump over to barkandjack.shop and check out what we have to offer over there. Also, if you're on Instagram, give me a follow at barkandjack. And if you're on Facebook, then just search for our group and we can carry on the conversation over there. And it is drinking coffee and talking watches. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.